Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Way That I See It. My name is Lucy Superfox, and this is my podcast. Welcome to 2023. Can you believe that we are in 2023 right now? It's blowing my mind. I'm already 5 days into the month at time recording this, and I'm like, what? Like, where has the time gone? I'm 35 now. Celebrated my 35th birthday in December of 2022, and I feel as young as I did when I was 25, with a little bit more wisdom and a little bit more self-trust. And a huge part of that has obviously been personal development, which you guys know I'm so passionate about sharing on this podcast. So first things first, this podcast is obviously called You Get to Have It All. And I just want to really dig into this, because what's happened so much is that life, business, mentors, coaches, and look, I get why, preach a message that it's about sacrifice, preach a message that you have to give things up, preach a message that it's either or. And I honestly know in my own experience, and I know from watching so many people around me, that it isn't either or. It isn't about sacrifice and struggle. It is 1,000,000% possible to have it all, to have the body, to have the business, to have the relationship, to have the family, to have whatever it is that you want, and to have them all. The clarification on that, right? The clarification that I always love to make on that is that it's not so much about sacrifice, but what it might be is about seasons. I think what happens so much of the time is we think that when we say we can have it all, that we have to strive for it all in one go, that we have to be in the gym every day, be a present mom every day, be hustling our business every day, be, the best partner every single day. And that's not what having it all is about. Having it all is about building your life into priorities and seasons of time, where you invest your time, your energy, and your focus in specific goals to reach a place that is either sustainable or something that you can sustain for the long term, so that you're in a position to then focus on the next thing. Now, I don't know what business you have. I don't know. I have no way of knowing with my listeners, where you're at in life, what's currently going on for you. But what I want you to know is that in my experience, the key to transforming your life, to being able to have it all, in inverted commas, right? Did you know that Americans call inverted commas parentheses? I was like, what is parentheses? And it basically means this. If you're watching me, it means this. Has anybody ever seen Friends where Joey does this? And everyone's like, you're doing it wrong, right? But in all seriousness, like, to have it all, it's about seasonality and it's about priorities. So let's talk a little bit about that. Why does society tell a story that it's about struggle or sacrifice? Because it likes clean, easy, neat boxes where our identity sits. It likes us to fall into a place that it can easily identify of housewife, of working mom, of gym goer, of gym bunny. It loves it. Algorithms on social media love it. They love a hashtag. They love a label. We love to be able to identify people and put them in a box. And the reason we love to do that is it helps us understand how to communicate with them. It helps us understand who to target from a marketing perspective. It helps us resonate and relate with people. So look, this is not a bad thing that this happens. But what can happen as a result of that is we put ourselves in so many boxes. We attach ourselves to these certain labels or roles and identities. And then what we don't allow ourselves to do is be more than one thing. Or we allow ourselves to be 1 to 3 things, but not the 7 or 8 things that we want to be. And I can tell you that you can be a yoga loving hippie, and you can be somebody who loves a good rave. You can be somebody who loves the gym and loves healthy eating, but occasionally loves to smash a Big Mac. Like, you're allowed to have whatever you want, right? This is your freaking life. And I think so much of the time society tells you that there's a role model or approach or system or way of being that you have to follow that's perfect and wonderful. Like, if you're not getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning and you're a business owner, that you're somehow a failure. And what I will tell you is, when I stopped getting up at 5 in the morning, my business grew. So let me just tell you that you get to have whatever you want to have, but the decision comes from being able to release the identity and release the labels and release the boxes. You cannot, at the same time as having the boxes, the labels, and the identities, then strive for a life of having it all, right? You have to be able to release one or the other. So my first piece of advice is this, is decide the life you want to have. Decide right now, wherever you are, and hopefully you watched the last episode, which was obviously my live workshop on how to take 2023 to the next level, is decide what you want to have. Decide the life, how you want it to look. Decide what a perfect day looks like for you. And we're going to be working more on this over the coming months. It's something I'm going to be leaning into a lot more. But you want to be deciding, being really clear on what it is you want and how you want life to go for you. And when you decide how you want life to go for you, that's when you can begin the work. That's when you can dig into what the next steps are. But you can't do that until you've decided what you want. So most people want things because they like the idea of them. They don't actually want them because it's a calling on the heart's desire. So how do you figure out the difference between a calling on your heart's desire and something you like the idea of? One is you will actually move mountains to make it happen. And two, if it falls in your lap, that would be nice. So what I want you to know is that when we're driving for desire, when we want a life of having it all, you have got to desire it. You have got to want it, right? You have got to be able to lean into it and be excited about it and being willing to put effort in, because what happens is what actual people really want is they like the idea of having it all, and they aren't necessarily prepared to do the work to have it all. So my strong advice is this, is decide, right? Decide what it is you want and clarify from that, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to do to have the thing I want to have? And when you know that, that is when, for you, you'll be able to see what it is that you actually want and what it is you want to strive for. Now, when I talk about seasons and priorities, I want you to know that this is not about the most important thing all the time. What I want you to know is when it comes to priorities, your priorities will change, they will shift, they will flux in line with what season you are in. There will be seasons where you'll need to invest time in your business and make that your priority for financial reasons. There'll be seasons where you need to invest time in your well-being. There'll be seasons where you need to invest time in your business or your body or your relationships, right? And those seasons aren't always predictable. So that's something you also must know. You can sit here and plan out your year, but the likelihood is that if something happens in your family life, that's going to become the next season. And so this is why, for me, it's really important that you build a couple of things. So number one, you must build mental and emotional stability, so that no matter what season you're in, you can build that continuation of energy, you can build that continuation of momentum. So how do we do that? With a daily personal development and daily mindset routine. Now, that looks different for every single person, and I'm not here to preach to you what that should be. I'm a big believer that the morning is a great time to start manipulating the subconscious, to changing what you filter for, to changing how you create the next steps of your life. So for me, it's a morning routine, and then other things get thrown in later in the day. This could be an evening routine for you. It really is literally up to you, right? But what I want you to know is that the first step to creating that mental and emotional stability is a personal development and growth routine. The second thing is a healing and a restoring routine. So that could be meditation for you, that could be breath work for you, that could be exercise for you, that could be whatever it looks like. But what you can't do is just work on what's happening here without working on the connection between the body and mind. The two things are intricately connected. In fact, the mind technically through the brain is stored in the body. And so what people try to sometimes do is change their life through changing their programming without also changing how that programming shows up in their body. And what I'll tell you is in all of my courses, we address both of those things. Like in Next Level Life, it's a 13-module course, 5 bonuses, 2 downloads. Obviously, courses with me open till the 11th of January this month. And it's only open once a year on purpose, right? Intentionally, that's a season of my life, is opening this once a year as a season of my life. And a huge part of that is how we address, how you get from what you want to where you want to be. But we do that through all the practical steps of the clearing, the healing, the restoring, so that you can ultimately then begin manifesting. And so what you have to know is that in that time, in your personal development routine, there has to be a healing routine. There has to be an element of addressing the body stuff. So whether that looks like exercise, meditation, whatever I said like it might be. And then the final thing is there has to be a growth element. So there has to be a stretch. I think what happens a lot of the time with the personal development routine is we do the same thing day in and day out. And that's amazing for reprogramming. That's amazing for conditioning. But what that doesn't necessarily do is stretch us and grow us. And so what you've got to do for that emotional and mental stability is also be creating that little baby step of growth every day. And we'll talk more about that in future podcasts. So when we're emotionally and mentally, and by stable, there's no judgment there. What I'm not trying to say is that somebody either is or isn't. What I talk about stability is consistency, right? It's that feeling of knowing, that feeling of structure when you move through different seasons of dialing up your business, or different seasons of dialing up your relationship, or different seasons of dialing up, your home life, is that there's a constant, and that constant must be your investment in yourself, whether that is, like I said, is in your healing, your personal development, your growth. Now, what I see a lot of the time is people spending a lot of time on healing something without taking action towards their goals and dreams. And I will tell you, there are times where you will absolutely need to be healing as your number one priority. But what you can't do is put everything else in your life on hold, because that's not actually healing. Healing is moving through. Healing is moving forward. Healing is moving beyond, right? And if we're not taking action and we're sat stagnant in our healing, what we're actually doing is sat stagnant in our trauma and our pain, or we're sat stagnant in our stories. So when people are sat there doing their analyzing of how 2022 went, but not actually taking action steps, forward to 2023, they're sat somewhere stagnant. So what I want you to know is that this constant is your personal growth and mindset routine. So when you've got that, and then you decide to kind of dial up these seasons, what you've got is a constant. So it means that if you have a bad day in business, or things don't go the way that you hoped, or the season doesn't quite turn out all right, or there's unexpected news and not necessarily in a good way, or something happens, that you are the constant in your life, because we are the creators of our reality. You guys know I believe this. You know I say this all the time. We always get what we're available for. And so whilst life sometimes has its curveballs and sometimes has its ups and downs, what I want you to know is that you will always get what you're available for in the interim. So of course, there are going to be outward manifestations that are not part of our control. There are other people's life's manifestations who might be in our life, other people's life's journeys that might be in our life. And we have to be prepared that they're going to come and they're going to go. But what we have to also be able to do is be able to be the person that can put the energy back into our own life, back into our own intentions, back into our own manifestations, because ultimately that's how we have it all. What so many people do is they make other people's stories of limitation the reason why they can't have something, or, well, this person's sick, so I can't do that, or this responsibility is fallen on me, so now I'm not able to do that. And that is just a story. I know people who have sick parents, children with accessibility challenges, they have, multiple businesses, they still work out, they still take care of themselves, they still sleep. And I'm telling you, it's about how they systemize and create their life. And what happens so much of the time is not only do we argue for other people's limitations, but we argue for our own limitations, because we would rather feel the predictable feelings of struggle and sacrifice and blame and negativity than we would change. Like, the truth of it is, being in the unknown of change, being in that stage before the actual change starts to happen, when we're setting the intentions and we're taking the action before the momentum kicks in, is fucking terrifying, because you feel like nothing's happening. You feel like you're out on a ledge. You feel like you're about to fall off a cliff. And that can be so terrifying that people would actually rather revert back to the feelings of negativity, the feelings of suffering or struggle or sacrifice, than they would actually put themselves out there to achieve something great. And that's because it's terrifying. And look, I totally get it. I've been this person. I've spent months at a time, seasons of my life, spent in a fear state, spent in a lack state, spent in a state of struggle and sacrifice, when actually all I needed to do was build myself up enough to trust myself. Now, look, how do we trust ourselves to have it all? Number one, like I said, you've got that consistent mindset and personal development routine. And two, you're willing to do the work to face your trauma. And what that looks like for you is different for everybody. And in the following few episodes, I'm going to be talking a lot about healing. I've got lots of guest speakers talking about feeling safe, nervous system regulation, healing from heartbreak, what self-love really is. Like, we've got so much under this topic, which has really been the journey that I have been on, over the last kind of 3 to 4 months. It's been a massive healing journey. And we're going to be talking a lot about that. But what I want you to know is that your healing is your responsibility. And if you truly want to have it all, if you don't want to have to choose, if you want to have a life of abundance and build a business and have a family and have choices, then you are going to have to be the person that faces up to your healing, because the life that you currently have is a direct representation of what you believe, what you know to be true, what you've stored in your body, right? The story of your life is stored in your body. And so if you want to change the story of your life, you're going to have to release what is stored in your body. And that comes from doing the therapeutic work, whatever that might look like for you. And of course, I can always send recommendations on where to go next. But what I want you to know is that having it all is over to you. You have the power to have it all. You have the power to create it all. It's a powerful intention combined with, consistent action in a seasonal way, so that you're working towards things in a seasonal fashion. What that season looks like for you will be different to what it looks like for me. But prioritizing our life is really key. And what most people do is they prioritize the comfort, they prioritize where they are over the change, over the growth, over the newness. And what I want you to know is, if you truly want to transform your life in 2023, if you truly want to take life to the next level, what you've got to be able to do is to be able to rein that back in and get really clear on what is a priority and what isn't. And this is a huge part of what we do in the Next Level Life course. So if right now, if you are feeling called for that little bit more structure, you're feeling called for that guidance, you've got until the 11th to jump in with Next Level Life. 13 modules, 5 bonuses, 2 downloads, and obviously accountability for that time with me. If you buy in the payment plan, you've got 2 coaching calls with me. And if you buy pay in full, you've got 6 bi-weekly coaching calls with me during the duration of the course. So what I want you to know is that you have the power to change it. You have the power to have it all. But that comes from how you design your life, and it comes from what you decide to prioritize and what season you decide to be in, based on how you are supporting yourself in your growth, in your development, and ultimately in designing the next level life of your dreams. So I hope you found this podcast useful. I was on one. I felt the need to share, the need to pour my heart and soul out into this subject, because it drives me crazy when the internet says we have to struggle or sacrifice. It drives me crazy when I see saying we have to pick either or, when I know we can have it all. It's just about priorities and seasons and making sure that we are always filling ourselves up to be the fullest version of ourselves, so we can overflow into the next thing that we're passionate about. So I love you all very much. That was the way that I see it, and I will see you on the next episode.